Hey, happy Valentine's Day. Let me just say, I love you.
Knew what was ahead, then you could prepare yourself, brace yourself from it, and you could just take the ride and find yourself on the other end. The other objective is to equip you with the essential skills that you need to become a ride master. Those 4 essential skills that you do need to develop if you are going to find yourself on this stage as a Circle of Champions. And then lastly is to prepare you. There's one thing that can stop you, no matter how passionate, how committed you are to get to the top of this company or any entrepreneurial endeavor. There's one thing that can stop you and will cause you to fail every time. So what I want to do first off here is to say the whole objective that I've got, the reason why I'm here with you today, is I have a personal mission to onboard 10 million new entrepreneurs over the next 3 years. We are living in times of incredible opportunity, and there's going to be this massive movement towards entrepreneurship. But there's a big problem about this shift towards entrepreneurship. Most people are not prepared. They're not equipped. They're not ready to be an entrepreneur, and many of them will fail if they do not get the proper warning, equipping, and preparation. And so, not just onboarding 10 million new entrepreneurs, but onboarding them and helping them succeed. And so I hope that you and ACN will help me try to globally onboard 10 million new entrepreneurs. I want to first start off by explaining why now is the greatest time in all of human history to be an entrepreneur. I mean, legitimately, why now is unlike any other time in history. I think maybe one of the most important things that I could do for you this morning is to help you avoid the greatest mistake you could possibly make in your lifetime. And that is to miss this epic moment in human history and not take full advantage of what's happening in this massive shift towards entrepreneurship and having it affect you and your family's future legacy forever. So let me just see if I can try to explain exactly what is this that's happening. That's not clicking forward back yonder. As publisher of Success Magazine, one privilege that I get a chance to have is to have access to the greatest minds, the greatest economists, the greatest futurists, as well as captains of industry to try to assess what's going on in the global marketplace, what has caused and created success, and what is it that's going to happen down the road in the future? What is it that's going to cause and create success going forward? So what I want to have you understand is that we have moved out of the industrial age, which has occupied our economy for the last couple hundred years, and we've moved out of that. You're seeing the crumbling of corporate America, where once the few people at the top of the glass ivy towers had control. They had control of everything. They had control of the capital, they had control of resources, they had control of talent, they had control of the advertising, they had control of distribution, they had control of shelf space, and that means they had control of access to the marketplace. And with control, you can dominate and you can keep out any new upstarts from being able to take your position, and status quo can be maintained. But because of technology and the connected age that we've seen really start to proliferate, particularly in the last 5 to 10 years, we have destroyed control for those that once controlled it. And now, for the first time in human history, the average person, an individual entrepreneur, a sole proprietor, literally in the second bedroom or basement of their home with a laptop at their fingertips, has access to a global marketplace. Access to global talent, global capital, global resources, and most importantly, global consumers. And so individually, we have the same power and access for economy and finance and business as any corporation in the world does. This is unprecedented in human history. This is a massive tectonic plate shift that's taking place right now. As you sit here in these chairs, it's the greatest shift we've ever seen in all of business, economy, and human history. There's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur than right now here at the beginning, truly, of the connected age. And the greatest benefit for all of you is Normally, if you want to take advantage of this, you've got to go and source a product. You've got to go and get it packaged. You've got to find distribution. You've got to create accounting and human resources, and you've got to put together all the infrastructure, right? In your business, you have to go and acquire telecom and negotiate for energy. All that is done for you. So even not only are you at the time of greatest opportunity for an entrepreneur, but the laborious part of putting together a small business or mid-sized company for you to take advantage of these times has been done for you. All you have to do is take this great infrastructure, this great history, these great stories, and tell the story to more people, enroll more people, and you can create distribution channels where energy, telecom, and products and services flood through in 24 countries around the world just off of your passion, enthusiasm, and commitment to telling the story. And so, truly, I mean, you want to talk about the right time in history, you want to talk about the right company with the right opportunity, I just hope, I have no horse in the race here. I'm not a member of ACN, I have no vested interest in whether you do or do not do the ACN business. But I do want to tell you as an outsider who sees all companies and all businesses and all entrepreneurial landscape, you couldn't be at in a better position with a better company at a better time in history than you sit here right now this morning. Okay? And I'm not just the only one that's saying this. Deloitte has done a big research report in 2014 to try to assess the economy, what's happening with wealth in the world. And the one thing that they conclude is that more people are becoming wealthy. That's the one thing we can conclude for certain. New millionaires are expected to grow from this point forward at a rapid rate in every region globally. The United States currently has the highest number of millionaire households and the largest number of new millionaires. Now, outside of the United States, by 2020, new millionaires will grow 2/3 in the developed countries and more than double in emerging markets like China, India, and Brazil. Now, a lot of you go, okay, well, that means that lots of the new growth is going to happen, in these new developed countries. Well, here's the reality if you are locally here in the United States. The United States is likely to remain home to the most millionaires, more than doubling from today, this moment right now, doubling in just the next 5 years to 2020, right here. What does that mean? That means that neighbors of yours, people that you see at your kid's soccer game or at the PTA meeting, or people that you see walking around your grocery stores right now, that right now do not have financial freedom, will become multi-millionaires over the next few years, right around you. These people will proliferate in this abundant time of opportunity and wealth. And so I'm telling you that you are standing right now this morning at the ticket booth. And you can either choose to take the ticket and step aboard this rocket ship ride and take this thrilling, albeit at times very scary and very challenging, but thrilling ride. Or you could choose to stay on the outside and watch everybody else take the rocket ship ride and enjoy the spoils of what this time in history means. But I want to tell you that I just want to put you towards the future. 20, 30 years from now, this is going to be your reality. You're going to be bouncing your great-granddaughter or your granddaughter on your knee, and she's going to look around at your house and environment, and she's going to look up at you with big blue eyes and ask you, what did you do? What happened? Why is it that we live like this? And you're going to answer that question one of two ways. Either one, well, my dear, I was there. I was there at the time when the industrial age ended and the connected age began and entrepreneurship proliferated. And I took full advantage. And that's why we have all this abundance and we live this glorious, blessed life. Or you're going to answer the question this way. My dear, I was there. I was there at the end of the industrial age and the connected age began and entrepreneurship proliferated. But I stayed an employee and I missed it. And it passed us by. And that's why we have to live like this. And we have scarcity, and we live paycheck to paycheck, and we're afraid of our financial future. The reality is 20, 30 years will pass from this moment right now. And the answer to your great or grandchild is going to be one of those two realities. And I'm challenging you this morning, I'm begging of you this morning, the talent, the capacity that you've been bestowed needs to be exercised. You have been brought to this moment in history for a reason. You were meant to be here. You were meant to show up at this arena, at this conference, with this company, at this time in history. I'm just asking you to make a decision. Truly make a decision. The only thing stopping you from reaping the rewards of this epic time in human history is a decision that you will become a multimillionaire. And so the decision I'm asking you to make this morning, on notes, and I know it sounds trivial, but I want you to inform your mind that you've made a decision, because when you make a decision, the world seems to line up around you. The conversations start to show up, right? The ideas start to proliferate. You start to see and hear things that you wouldn't have seen before. So I want you to write down, yes, I will build a business that positively impacts thousands of people, thus rewarding me as a multi-millionaire by 2020. You have 5 years to take advantage of this time in history. I'm asking you, if you're in this conference, you are not here by accident. You were not asked to be here by accident, and the decision to show up was not an accident. But it does require you making a decision, stepping forward and doing the work in order to take advantage of this time in history. But I do warn you, once you do step on this rocket ship ride, let me warn you about the twists and turns that you will face ahead. First of all, the greatest mistake you will make as you leave this conference is you are excited. I mean, what is there not to be excited about after the experience you just had this whole weekend? But the mistake is you will expect everybody that you tell about what you're excited about to be excited for you. And they will not. Let me explain. I have a friend of mine who's the CEO of a very large company, and he is Mormon, lives in Salt Lake City, and we're talking about the dangers of entrepreneurship, and he says, you know, it reminds me of when I was 18 years old, and I was asked to go on mission, and I was about to be sent 8,000 miles away from home. Now you gotta remember, I've never been that far away from the bosom of my mother. I've never been out of Salt Lake City, and I'm about to go 8,000 miles away. And so the elders called me and sat me down, and they told me every ugly, nasty, horrible, wretched thing that somebody might say about our religion, or about me, or about what I was doing there, and all the rest of it. And he said, thank God they did. Because if I'd gotten 8,000 miles away from home, and they had said that to me for the first time, and I'd heard it unexpectedly, he said it might have devastated me to the point where I might not have ever recovered. But because I was warned, and they had prepared me, when somebody said something, I was able to respond with, you know, isn't that funny? They said you would say that. You said it just like they said you would say it. And I was bulletproof. I was emotionally bulletproof. And so that's what I'm telling you in advance. People are not going to like the fact that you're excited about changing your future, about enrolling yourself into a new exciting venture. Here's why. In order to have what others don't, you've got to do what others won't, which means that you step out of the herd of mediocrity. The herd, 90% of all people all over the world are employees. And when you decide to become your own boss, to work for yourself, to build your own business, you have to step out of this herd. And this is what I want you to do. It is what I call the hero's journey, as Joseph Campbell would say. When you step out of the herd and you begin your grand adventure as a self-reliant, self-motivated, self-directed, independent business owner. That's your call to adventure. Now, there's 4 warnings that I want to give you of the twists and turns that are ahead for you as an entrepreneur when you step on this rocket ship ride. Here's number one, warning number one. You will be attacked. When you step out of the herd will attack you. I'll give you an example. So there's a crab that has this particular agility because they climb into coral reefs and so forth, and that crab can climb out of any trap that you set for itself. Yet, we pull millions out of the ocean every single day because they share a very similar human trait. So what happens is that you take this wire crab trap and you put a little crab feed at the bottom of it, you lower it to the bottom of the ocean, crab comes along, sniffs the crab, jumps into the crab trap, starts munching on the crab feed, another crab sees the feed as well, jumps in, starts munching on it, another one, now it looks like it's crab Thanksgiving. Even when all the crab feed is gone, other crabs that come by will see those gathered together and will jump into the crab trap to join them. Now, even if one of the crabs gets the idea of saying, hey, there's no crab feed here, what's the point of sticking into this, and starts to climb out of the crab trap, the other crabs in the trap will start knocking it off the wall so it can't climb out. If that one crab persists, it will actually break its arm so it can't climb any further. If it persists further, they will kill it. By the force of majority, by the herd mentality, all the crabs stay in the trap and they're pulled up out of the ocean, and it's a crab feast on the pier. Now, I'm telling you that you will go home to crabs. You will go back to your offices and there will be crabs there. Now, they might not break your arm physically, but they will try to break your spirit emotionally. And they will do it through sarcasm, innuendo. They will try to elicit doubt, belittlement, and the rest of it. And they might not actually try to kill you physically, but they will try to kill your dreams. And so what I want to suggest that you do is beware of the crabs that you will be surrounded with, because they will try to stop you. They will try to keep you from doing what you're doing. Now, why? Because a lot of these people are people who love you, who have your best interests at heart. But why would they want to break your spirit and want to kill your dreams? Two reasons. Number one, because by you leaving the herd, you make them look bad. You see, it's easy to point to people on the cover of Success magazine and go, oh, Mark Zuckerberg, oh, Bill Gates, oh, Richard Branson. You know, those people are just, fortunate and gifted and blessed and all the rest of that. But when somebody in their own peer group leaves the herd, it makes it proof that they could as well. But they don't have the same courage that you've got. And you're making them look bad and feel bad for not joining you. And so it's easier for them to try to break your spirit and to try to kill your dream than it is to join you. Empathize. Understand that their ego will become vengeful by you leaving the herd. Empathize with them. Know that it's not about you at all. It's not about your dream at all. It's about them and about their being resentful by not listening to their own inner voice and joining you. And that's number two, is that they are not as courageous as you. They do not want to leave the comfort and security of the corporate bosom to join you on this grand adventure. They are not ready to receive the call to their hero's journey. And so empathize with them. Don't take it personally, because it's not. It's not about you, it's about them. Empathize with them. Love them anyway, but do not let the crabs break your spirit or kill your dreams. Now, let me explain how I cured myself of crabs, okay? That kind of sounds weird, doesn't it? So when I was in real estate, I had this one particularly awful day. Just all day long, it just got kicked in the gut, it seemed. And at the end of the day, I got the worst. And that was, I was going after this multi-million-dollar listing, and I was going against my arch enemy, right? I knew that he was one of the other people that they were talking to list this place, and I knew that once it was listed, it would sell in 15 seconds, huge commission check. And I get a call at the end of the day from him. And he was given the privilege of calling me to say that he had just listed the house, and that if I had a buyer, I was welcome to go and help sell his listing. And then he went on to pass on that the selling folks had said many uncomplimentary things about me based on our meeting, all the way down to insulting my necktie. And so after this awful, wretched day, I went to an old after work hangout spot, and I'm lamenting to a friend of mine, and he's like, don't worry, I just read this article in Newsweek, and it said that if you live a long life, 70, 80 years, and you're a good citizen, you're a good person, you go to church, and you give generously to charities, at your funeral, only about 10 people will care enough that you have died to cry. I thought, what? All these people I'm trying to please, all these people I'm trying to be a good guy for, all these people that I'm trying to help, and at the end of 70 to 80 years of all this work, only 10 people will care enough that I have died to cry. He says, oh no, it gets much worse than that. He said, at the funeral procession, when they go to the final resting place, that sacred thing when they're laying your body into the ground for the final time, he said, the number one determinant of how many people will show up to the burial site is the weather. If it happens to be drizzling just a bit, on average about 50% of the people will break off from the funeral procession and go straight to the party. I thought, that is it. I no longer care whether anybody cares about my ideas or my opinions at any time whatsoever. It became the day that I got cured of crabs once and for all. Every time I decided to pick up the phone to call somebody and I was intimidated to call them, or walk across the room and introduce myself, or decide to do this venture or this venture and wonder what other people would think about whether I was doing it, whether it was successful or whether it failed, and so forth. Every time I asked myself, would this person cry at my funeral? And if the answer was no, then I don't care what their opinion is. And I just wave at the world with one finger, and you can use this finger or you can use this finger. If you're not going to cry at my funeral and you have an opinion about what I'm doing. Here's the suggestion that I have for you. When somebody rejects you, when you do something that embarrasses you, I want to tell you, it does hurt. You're human. Every time one of these Circle of Champions gets rejected or is embarrassed by their family, or they do something, they try and it fails, it hurts. No question about it. But the one thing you can do is reduce your recovery time. See, it's not if you get knocked down. You will get knocked down repeatedly. It's not if you get knocked down. It's whether you get back up or how fast it takes for you to get back up. So when I first used to get knocked down, sometimes it would take me 2 weeks to get over it. And I was crabby for about 2 weeks. Then I got it down to about 2 days. 2 days I walked around with a big black cloud over my head. And then I got it down to 2 hours. And to this day, I have it down somewhere between 20 seconds and 20 minutes. Like if I have something that really is embarrassing or really hurts or really is a flame out failure, I'll take 20 minutes, and sometimes, just to be honest with you, to confess, maybe 2 hours. I might get in my car, drive away, and go to the park and just cry in my soup a little bit, right? Whine, bitch, moan, and the rest of it, okay? But that's it. 2 hours is over. It's time to get back up, get on the horse, and continue to charge forward. So, the lesson is, it's going to hurt. You're never going to get over that. It's going to hurt. You can't control it. You can't control how long it keeps you down. So just work on reducing it, and reducing it. All right. As Martin Luther King said, I love this quote. The ultimate measure of a man or a woman is not where he or she stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he or she stands in times of challenge. You see, standing up here on this stage is not when success is defined. You are not defined in moments of success. You are defined in moments of failure, in moments of defeat, in moments of rejection. That's when you separate yourself from everybody else. Whether you get back up and how fast you get back up are those factors that determine whether you are a success or not. Your successes don't define your success. Your failures, your rejections, and how fast you recover from them are those factors that define your success. So know that those are the moments when success is being born. Warning number 2, you will be unpopular. See, a lot of people think that successful people are popular. It's exactly the opposite. You see, when you stop being like other people, people will stop liking you. Do you understand that? When you stop being like people, when you leave the herd and you stop talking about what other people are talking about, when you stop reading what other people are reading, when you stop watching what other people are watching, you will become unrelatable and people will stop liking you. So you have to understand, you will be unpopular. I'll give you a great example. So, the last presidential election, I'm watching. I don't watch all the crazy political stuff that goes on up into it, but I do watch the end. I love that night when the results are coming in, and then the loser has to give a speech and explain and justify, and I just love to see how they handle that. And then the winner gets to give this epic speech about what the next 4 years in the future is going to be like. And so I always sort of sit there and sort of soak that last night in. And then when the election results came in and Obama had won for the second time, and I sat there and I watched him give his speech of the Chicago skies, and his wife comes out and his 2 daughters comes out and he's waving to the crowd. It hit me in that moment why I was not more successful. Here's why. Do you realize that when this man became president for the second time, that 49+% of the people in his own country, okay, let's not talk about Iran and Venezuela and the rest of it, in his own country were mad and upset that he had won. 49% plus people in this country do not like that man. Some people hate him vigorously. And I realized that's my problem. Too many people like me. Sure, really. Right now, if Obama walked on this stage right now, half, probably in this audience, more than half, would not like him. I walk on this stage, maybe, I don't know what, 1, 2, 3% of you don't like me. Obama is President of the United States of America. I am not. That's my problem. You see, when you are changing things, when you are shaking the world by the shoulders, when you're trying to create progress, when you are breaking the status quo, people will not like you. And here's how it works out. The higher you climb on the ladder of success, the less you will be liked. See this as evidence of success. When your family, when your friends, when your college alumni, because you've joined ACN and you're excited and you're building your future, when they stop liking you, when you become more and more unpopular, see that as evidence of success and progress. As we said, the less you are like other people, the less they will like you. Put it this way, if all your friends and family are happy with you, you are not doing great work. See, you think it's the opposite. You want everybody to be happy with you. But if they are happy with you, that means you are not pushing progress. You are not breaking status quo. You are not advancing. You are not doing anything important if everybody around you likes you, because you are like everybody else around you then. Warning number 3. You will be laughed at. When you go back and tell people what you're doing and what your dreams are and what your future's going to look like, they will laugh at you. I'll never forget the time that she said this. She said, Darin, maybe success just isn't in your DNA. I was in the 11th grade English class. the bell had rang. I had to get out quickly because we had it's Friday, we had a big baseball game that night, and I had to get to practice. And my teacher says, Darin, would you please stay behind? Which is never good, right? And so I stay behind, and she hands our recent essay test, and on it is a big red letter, too far in the alphabet to be any good. And she says, Darin, maybe this just isn't your thing. She says, I heard, last week you hit a home run in baseball, is that right? And I said, yeah. She says, well, you're probably pretty good at baseball. I said, yeah. I knew she was being helpful, trying to be helpful at least. She says, well, then you're good at other things, but maybe success in this is just not in your DNA. And I have to tell you, that was a pivotal moment for me, because she had made a decision about me. Not that I needed to improve, not that there was things that I could do to become better, but that it was not capable for me to do this. I could not become a writer. I would not be good in this curriculum. Well, if I could remember that hateful woman's name, because I scorched her from my gray matter long ago, I would love to send her my third book as a New York Times bestselling author. I would even give her a free subscription to Success Magazine that I publish and edit that is distributed globally. You see, Einstein was considered slow and was told that he would never amount to anything by his teacher. Thomas Edison, who was sickly as a child, was considered retarded by his teacher. Richard Branson was called either stupid or lazy. He dropped out of high school, and his headmaster said, you will either become a millionaire or you will be in prison. Well, he proved him wrong on both counts, right? Because he's a billionaire, not a millionaire. When you decide to step out, understand that this is the process that you will go through. First, they will ignore you. Oh yeah, we've heard you joined those things before. You said you were going to get rich before, it didn't happen. They'll just ignore you. After which, they will laugh at you. As if you proceed to push further, they will then start laughing at you in order to try to break your spirit. Next, if you persist even further, they will try to fight you because their ego will become vengeful that you're making them look bad. And then as Mahatma Gandhi promises, after they ignore you, laugh at you, and then fight you, you eventually will win. This clicker. You win. And, by the way, you get the last laugh. Hit me, baby, hit me. What is going on with this? Clicker!
That scared me a little.
And you get to join the ranks of these type of people. Every face that you see up there were laughed at. Every face that you see there were fought, some vigorously, some crucified, some assassinated. But every face you see up there has pushed human progress, has dented the universe, has made an indelible difference in the future of humanity because they would not allow those that laughed or those that fought them to stop them. And so I ask you to join the faces on this slide when you are laughed and mocked out as well. Warning number 4, when you choose to step out of the herd, you will be alone. I'll give you an example of one of the great defining moments for me. I talked about in the Compound Effect when I bought my dream home in Tiburon. I don't know if you remember that story. On the hillside, 4 levels with an elevator over the most epic view. I remember when I was signing the mortgage papers, the only thing that I could think about is I signed the final signature and I got the keys in my hand. You know that amazing moment when you get to drive up alone into the house and open the door for the very first time? The only thing that I could think about was, I can't wait to show my dad. See, all my life I've been trying to impress my dad. But I always seem to come up short, right? You know, I could have hit another home run, right? I could have had an A+, right? I could have closed another deal. Somehow, some way, I always came up a little short. But this house, this epic house, this would do it. So I remember going in the house, calling my dad, I said, Dad, I want you to come see my house. I didn't want to explain it to him. I wanted the unveiling to be just perfect. We set a date 2 weeks away. And then I looked around my house and I thought, oh my God, I've got a serious problem. And that was that it was empty. 4,000 square feet, totally empty. And I could hear him saying, what good is a castle in the sky if you have to sit on the floor like a beggar, right? And so I'm thinking, I gotta solve this. Yeah, my dad, he was a peach. So the next morning, I'm first at the San Francisco Furniture Mart. And in an afternoon, I buy 4,000 square feet of furniture and fill the place up wall to wall, floor to floor, with the one criteria that they had to deliver under 2 weeks. And so I get the house furnished. The time is perfect. I have a chef prepare appetizers and pour champagne. I had them arrive at the perfect time when the sun was going to be setting. It's a beautiful weather day. The stage is set. This is it. This is the moment for my entire life. This is the unveiling. And so we get a glass of champagne, and I said, Dad, come, I want to show you my office. And it was one floor down, and you walk in, and it's wall-to-wall, floor-to-ceiling glass. And you just have to sort of get an image of this, right? You're literally, it feels like you're on top of the world. You're over the Corinthian Yacht Club on Friday nights. They have these little sailboat races right out there in the harbor. And then you've got the tip of Tiburon, which looks like the tip of Monaco, with all these restaurants and boutique shops, and the boats are pulled up there. And then across the way is Angel Island. Behind Angel Island is Berkeley and Oakland. And with the sun setting, the light is shimmering off the glass buildings and windows, you know, twinkling in the distance. And then Alcatraz comes up in the water like a muffin top right there. Behind it is the Bay Bridge, which is strung like a harp. And then the city line of San Francisco looks like it just rises out of the bay right there. And from that vantage point, the streets run perpendicular to your view. And when the sun sets behind the city, it looks like lava of gold is pouring down the streets. I mean, it is just the most magnificent, breathtaking view you've ever seen. Ever. So I walk him to the window, and I just remain quiet as we look out the window, having him soak it in. And then several seconds later, I ask, Dad, what do you think? And he doesn't respond, and I look at him, and he's looking up in the corner, and he goes, look, there's a water stain in the corner.
You know he's going to find something.
In that moment, my heart broke. This was the moment that I had worked my whole life to that point up for. And that was the moment from my highest high to my lowest low. But that lowest low was the moment that I was liberated. I realized in that moment that there was nothing I could ever do to impress him. And it was never about trying to impress him at all. The only person that I needed to impress was me. That I needed to succeed for me. That I needed to do the kind of things that I would feel prideful of. Now, I have seen people not have that moment of liberation their whole lives. I've seen 50, 60-year-olds. I've seen 70 and 80-year-olds who are still living out the life, trying to impress someone else. It either is their parents, or it might even be commercial media. You have to have this kind of house, this kind of car, this kind of watch, this kind of shoes. It could be keeping up with the Joneses, where you went to vacation versus them, how your kids are excelling at school versus them, and the rest of it. So many people live out their lives with somebody else's design for it rather than their own. The other pivotal moment for me, click. Oh, I love what Steve Jobs had to say about this in the 2005 Stanford commencement speech when he said, your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't let the noise of other people's opinions drown out your own inner voice, heart, and intuition. The other defining moment for me was when I met this lady, who you will see here in a second, Maria Shriver. And when I met her, she was the first lady of California. We met at the Beverly Hills Hilton. I drove up from San Diego, and we spent the whole day as I interviewed her for this cover of Success. And the one question that I wanted to ask her, because you have to remember, not only was she the first lady of California, but she was a 6-time New York Times bestseller. She had the anchor job at NBC. She obviously, in my opinion, is from American royalty, if there was such a thing. Her uncles are Bobby, Teddy, and John. Her father was Sergeant Shriver, who started the Peace Corps, Head Start, and the Job Corps program. Her mother was Eunice, who started the Special Olympics. And so around their kitchen table, when they were dining, the conversation was about how are you going to spend your life changing history? What are you going to do to move humanity forward? So their whole lives had to be about building this epic legacy and carrying on this Kennedy sort of, heritage. So I asked her at the end of the interview, I said, so how do you define success? And I expected to get some sort of an answer was like, ask not what your country can do for you, But it was very different. She said, I used to define myself by the next best-selling book or getting the anchor job or where I was going or who I knew or what project I was working on or what charity I was supporting. She says, but I finally realized that I needed to define success for me. And so now what success for me is being there for my mother all the way at the end of her life, having been able to take care of my father through his Alzheimer's. Success to me is having the time and freedom to be able to be there for my children, to be the kind of mother that I always wanted to be. Success to me is being the kind of woman that I always wanted as a friend to my friends. Now, while that definition of success might not be impressive to you, the key point is it's impressive to her. And then she goes about living her life in accordance to that definition of success to her. She says, it's the first time that I've ever really felt successful and I've ever really felt like I was living fully when I redefined success for me. And I have to tell you, that answer just staggered me. Because see, here I am, the publisher of Success magazine. I wrote the definition of what success is for the magazine. And I'd never written the definition of what success was for me and how I was supposed to live my life according to my definition. So all the way on the ride from Beverly Hills Hilton back home to San Diego, this was playing in my head about my lack of knowing what my real definition of success was. As soon as I got home, I kissed my wife, poured a glass of wine, got a journal, and wrote for an hour as I decided, what does success mean to me? And I filled up, a dozen or two pages, and then I went back and I read it. And I was blown away by what I read. Here's why. I thought that I was supposed to go out and do all these important things, that was success to me, that I had to build a $100 million company, that I had to dent the universe, that all these things that I was pursuing, giving my life to for these goals and objectives, none of those showed up on that paper. And that was incredibly revealing to me. And the other thing that was revealing to me is that 90% of everything that I defined success was, I was already living. But the 10% was overwhelming the 90%. And so all I had to do was make these small adjustments over here, and then I could start living in accordance to nobody else's definition of success. Now here's the odd thing, and I don't know if this will happen for you, but I'm just going to tell you what happened for me. After I changed those 10% and settled into that 90%, really started embracing that 90%, my success multiplied. And success was easier and a lot less stressful than it had been before. Because I was truly pursuing the things that in my heart and soul, to my core values, the things that were really important to me, not important to somebody else's ambitions or somebody else's definition, that when I really embraced that strength, success started to multiply. So I ask you to take some time when you leave here to write out that definition for you of what is success to you. How do you define it? Truly. Don't just see this as some sort of trite exercise. Really embrace it, because I think you will be surprised of exactly what comes up for you, and you'll be able to focus on those important things and clear out these things that you thought you needed to do to be successful, to feel good about yourself, or the things you think you needed to acquire or to obtain. And really, those ideas were given to you by somebody else. But when you live in accordance to what you really want, all of a sudden, great things happen. If you need a guiding system to help you in this process in the Living Your Best Year Ever program, this is how I set, design, and conquer big goals for myself. It'll help you discover and unearth what those strengths are and what that definition of success is for you. So how do you survive this scary ride? Because here's what I'm going to promise you. This is what it's going to feel like. No doubt. You leave here, you walk out those doors, you go home, that's what it's going to feel like. I know it's really awesome when we're all here together. ACN, it's awesome, I love all you guys, man, thank you, I love all you guys. You're going to go back home, and that's what it's going to feel like, okay? How do you survive that?
That's awesome.
Everybody will tell you, Trump said it yesterday, you have to love what you do. Why though? Why? Because, you know, I hate that. I hate the fact that you hear that every time, but there's never any explanation about why you have to love it, why you have to have a passion for it. The best explanation I ever heard came from Steve Jobs, and he articulated it well. Let me have him tell it to you now.
People say you have to have a lot of passion for what you're doing, and it's totally true. And the reason is because it's so hard that if you don't, any rational person would give up. It's really hard, and you have to do it over a sustained period of time. So if you don't love it, if you're not having fun doing it, you don't really love it, you're going to give up. And that's what happens to most people, actually. If you really look at the ones that ended up, you know, being successful, unquote, in the eyes of society, and the ones that didn't, oftentimes it's the ones that were successful loved what they did so they could persevere when it got really tough. And the ones that didn't love it quit because they're sane, right? Who would want to put up with this stuff if you don't love it? So it's a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of worrying constantly. And if you don't love it, you're going to fail. So you got to love it. You got to have passion.
If you don't love it, you're not going to be willing to do the hard, scary work necessary to proceed further. And so that's really, I think, the best definition. By the way, if you want to copy the slides, you want to copy the video that I just showed you as well to show your team members and so forth, I put it up as promised to you before on a page where you can download it and you can have access to it, okay? So all you just do is text your name and email address to that phone number, your name, comma, email address to that phone number. It'll send you a link, and then I put all those resources up here for you to be able to pull those down, okay? Is that helpful for you? Great. Also the sheet about how to define your own definition of success. If you didn't get it, it'll be over in the corner. So there's 4 switches to ignite your passion. You have to leave here with the switch flipped. And it can't just be shallow. It can't just be that you're excited. Excitement is not passion. Excitement is not love. We have to turn on the switch of true love, true passion, which will then give you the true commitment and fortitude that you need to accomplish this scary ride. So let me give you 4 switches in which to rely on. Damn this clicker. Number 1, what? Do you love what you do? Now, I'm going to tell you, I don't like this switch because people have become reliant upon this. I don't love what I do, right? It becomes this whiny thing. I'm not passionate about what I do. Like all day, 24/7, 365, they're supposed to be totally in bliss and in passion about what it is that they do. That is BS and malarkey, right? A lot of people point to Richard Branson or Bono and Oprah and go, look at what they do. They just love what they do. They're just so passionate what they do. You have no idea how awful their life really is. Richard Branson has 125 lawsuits pending at any one time. Spends most of his time in depositions and with attorneys, staying off all the attacks to his companies and his 50,000 employees. Bono lives like a vagabond, sleeping on a bus, going from venue to venue, spending most of his time backstage, eating M&Ms, waiting for the next time to come on stage. Oprah spends hours upon hours at 4 o'clock in the morning in makeup chairs and in negotiations and in meetings and in preparation and the rest of it. The only thing that you see is the 5% of their lives when Richard Branson is doing this great PR stunt. He's got a naked lady while he wakeboards, behind a boat. Or Bono on stage rocking it out, the crowd's going crazy. Or Oprah on stage interviewing the Dalai Lama and crying, talking about the big impact she's making in the world. That 5%, I will admit to you, is really awesome. But also what I want you to know is that 95% of their lives sucks really hard. And no matter what it is that you do, 95% of the time, it's going to suck. A lot of people look at my life and go, oh my God, you got the best life. You get to meet all these incredible people, travel all over the world, be on stage. I'm going to tell you, that 5% is really friggin' awesome. But 95% of it sucks really hard. Do you realize I gotta go run back to the hotel, repack my bag? I've been on the road for a week and a half, and I'm repacking the same things. I accidentally forgot underwear, so I had to flip it in inside out. Right? I'm gonna get in the car, I'm gonna drag my crap through an airport and sit there for an hour and eat stale chicken, you know, and then I'm gonna get to the other side and immediately I gotta turn around and find a way to get my clothes ironed before I go to the next venue. I'm gonna tell you that most of my life sucks. But I have another switch than what? I don't do what I do for what I do. And so I don't expect you to do ACN because you love what you do at ACN. Now, if you do, awesome. If that switch is yours, fantastic. But it doesn't have to be. That's the key lesson here. I want you to put that, don't over-romanticize the idea that you're going to have to love what you do all the time. It's not going to happen. I want you to put that sticky on your computer. 95% of everything I do here is going to suck. And once you sort of kind of get a grip on that, you can endure it. Because you don't have this expectation that it's supposed to be awesome all the time. So that's, somebody's going to have to work with me here on this clicker. That's, you have to ascertain, is what your switch? If it is, fantastic, but that's one, but it's only one of 4. So let's look at the next switch. I'm just gonna go, click. Can you click it when I say click? Great. How? Do you love how you do what you do? Now, I love this switch. I'll give you an example, click. We had this housekeeper, her name was Leticia, and every morning she came to the front door, big smile, big good mornings, incredible enthusiasm. And I used to think every morning, oh my God, if she only knew the sweat pile of clothes in the corner, right? You know, the dog droppings all over the yard that she's gonna have to mess with, the toilets, the showers. But every time she was totally elated with what she was doing. She hummed and sang and she did it. She went way above and beyond. She color coordinated my suits, color coordinated my ties, color coordinated my underwear. Don't judge me. She left little gifts around the house for our dogs, took great care, above and beyond. And she, and I used to tell her, I said, Leticia, I'm so appreciative about what you're doing here. And she used to say, of course. I mean, oh, thank you. Fantastic. She would say, I kind of got offended. It's like, I'm trying to give you appreciation here. But I realized later that she didn't need my appreciation. She didn't do it for my appreciation. She did it for herself. She just loved doing things to a level of excellence. And I've seen this in toll takers, I've seen this in taxi cab drivers, I've seen this in accountants, I've seen this with lawyers, I've seen this with CEOs, that you put so much presence and energy into how you do what you do, that it fills you with passion and it fills you with purpose and you love the process of what it is that you do. The great thing about it is that you can ignite that one at any time. So that's switch number 2. Do you love how you do what you do? Part of my passion is in this. I love doing things to a level of excellence. I will forego a profit. I will forego other projects. I will forego lots to do something at a level of excellence because I do it for me, not for the profit and not for other people. So I encourage you to take a look at that switch as a possibility. The next one is this. Who? Maybe it's who you do what you do for. I had a friend of mine who went to one of my HBF CEO forums. And after the event, we were at dinner, and he was telling me about the last 3 to 5 years that he had gone through, which was this unbelievably horrible, life-altering, tragic 3 to 5 years that he had just survived. And you have to know, he had top of the world, 45 years of age. He had 12 books. He was a best-selling author. He was a well-known speaker. He had a very profitable business. He was wealthy, and he also, his personal life was amazing too. He married his dream girl. She was stunning every time she walked in the room, not just because of her dark hair and crystal blue eyes, but the palpable wave of hope and possibility that she brought into every room that she entered. He had 2 little boys. This family was the picture of the American dream. Now, he wanted to expand his business, so he bought a company in a related industry. The management transition didn't go well, and the business started to go down. He had to sell it in a distressed sale, which meant that he lost millions of dollars, had to hand the keys over, and still carry a 7-figure debt. Then the economy receded, And his main business that he built his fortune off of the last 20 years was in jeopardy, and he had to negotiate a buyout for that as well. He negotiated a 5-year income payment deal to protect his family, but the new owners found a way to fire him from his own company and enforce his non-compete. So now he has no business, no income, and no ability to create any income. Nothing prepared him for what would come next. His wife of 20 years, the love of his life, is diagnosed with terminal breast cancer. She's given 3 months to live. It goes from her breast to her bone to liver, eventually her brain. They fight it for a year, and after a year, she's dead. He has no business, no income. The love of his life was torn away from him. He has 2 sons who had just lost their mother. Todd was broken, with no way to know how he was going to get his chutzpah back. He's sitting at the edge of his bed, just sobbing. His 13-year-old son, Jonathan, comes in, puts his hand on his shoulder and said, "Dad, we need you. You can't give up. You have to do what you tell everybody to do. You have to keep going." And he looks up in his son's crystal blue eyes, and he gets this wave of hope and possibility that runs over him. And he gets up and he said, he went back to work, it reignited his passion, and he said, "You know, a lot of people say that I stepped up and I saved my 2 boys." He said, "But in reality, they stepped up and they saved me." And he no longer loved what he did. He couldn't find the energy to love how he did it, but he did it for who he was doing it for. And that gave him all the passion, that gave him all the love that he needed to go out and conquer the world one more time. Today, he's more successful than he was at the beginning of this story. He found another woman that has become just like his soulmate, and they are, once again, the picture of the American dream. So the who switch is a very powerful switch. You might consider yourself, who do you do what you do for? Because if you can find that switch, it doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter how you do it, but for doing it for who you're doing it for, you will overcome any obstacle, you will run through any rejection, you will overcome any naysayer if you have that who in your heart. The last switch is the why switch. This is the one that I embrace. Why you do what you do for. This is finding your fight, that thing that you are willing to die for, fighting your fight. This one for me started out a long time ago in 1994 when I was the executive producer to a television network called TPN, or the Success Channel. And we produced TV programming that was a lot like what we produced in Success Magazine. It was hopeful, it was positive. But in that endeavor, I realized the most powerful machine in our society is what? The most powerful machine in our society is what? It's the television. The television is the most powerful educational tool in our entire society. We orient our family rooms around it. We orient the furniture around it. It ends up becoming the epicenter of our entire home. And it becomes how we learn about the world, about others, how we should feel about ourselves and the world around us. And for the unfortunate reality is that what is on that television is negative, it's sensational, it's showing you what's wrong with the world constantly, morning, noon, and night. Now, the problem isn't the television. I thought if we could turn this television, that is the most powerful education machine we have in our society, that has been used as a force for evil, a force for danger, a force for fear, we can turn it into a force of hope, of possibility, of inspiration, of aspiration. And then later I went on and became the president of TSTN, the Success Training Network. And so and then Success Magazine in 2007, and that has been the same fight, same mission, going in and attacking the negative, sensational news media that constantly invades our family rooms, invades our cars, invades our office, invades our airports, and trying to turn this vehicle of negativity that we're surrounded with, click, click, into a vehicle of hope, a beacon of hope and possibility. That's been the mission that I have been on in fighting the evil enemy of sensational news media that tells people that they are not hot, that things are bad, that things are awful, that things are dangerous, that the economy is terrible, and trying to show you what's right with the world, and that things are possible with a little energy, a little passion, and a little fortitude. So how do you find your fight? How do you find your fight? That thing you're willing to stand up for and even fight for to the death. There's two paths that you can take. Number one is find what you love. What's that thing that you love that just fills your heart up, that you're willing to charge forward into the battlefield with? Now that's one path. And quite frankly, it's not as powerful as the second path. Here's the second path. Finding out what it is, click, that you hate. What do you hate? Now a lot of people go, oh, you shouldn't hate. Are you kidding me? You should hate evil. You should hate injustice. Right? The thing that is a threat to the thing that you love. Right? There's always good and evil. There's always God and the devil. There's always up and down. There's always the dichotomy fight. Sometimes you can find more energy in what you hate in the defense of what it is that you love. So let me give you an example. Let's say that, click, that you love animals. You love the beauty and majesty of animals. Then you probably also hate the mistreatment and cruelty to animals. Let's say that you love the planet. You love this beautiful thing that we have been bestowed. That means that you probably also hate what it is that we have done to it and what's happening with the effects of global warming. Let's say that you love your mother. Then you probably also hate that cancer took her away from you too early. Let's say that you love the ecology, the largest mammals on the planet, the majesty of these beautiful beings. Then you probably also hate the cruelty of whale hunting. Maybe you love equality for all, no matter what the circumstance. Then you probably also hate that 80 families control half the wealth in the world. Maybe you love equal opportunity for all, and you hate the glass ceiling that seems to always suppress the income possibilities for women. Maybe you hate the injustice of racial discrimination. And let's say you love equality, but you also hate that not everybody is given equal opportunities. Maybe you love liberty and the safety for your family. That means that you probably also hate when it is threatened by terrorists. You see, I love human potential. I love waking up the seeds of greatness that are inside of people, which means that I also hate when people fearmonger and try to tell you that the world is bad and awful and things are scarce. And so that is my evil enemy because of what it is that I love. And so I ask you to sort of figure out, what is it that you're willing to die for? As Martin Luther King said, if you haven't found something you are willing to die for, you aren't fit to live. So what do you love? Maybe that is where you find your great inspiration. But maybe it's really ignited when you find out what is it that threatens what you love. What is it that is the enemy of what you love? And that is what you hate. And that's what makes your blood boil, gets you up early, as you fight through the obstacles, puts you to bed late at night, always impassioned. And then lastly, what is it that you would be willing to die for? There's a worksheet that will go along with this that will help you vet that out when you text in for the slides. Just want to give you that comfort. So, do you have the love and passion? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Do you have it? Because a lot of you think, oh yeah, I love this, or this makes me angry, or so forth. But here's the test. I want to give you the ultimate test to determine that yes, you have found this thing that you absolutely, no question about it, emphatically love. Click. I call it the crap. Back. Not that far. There we go. I call it the Saturday test, and it was when I interviewed this guy, David Foster. For those that you don't know, David Foster is one of the most successful music producers in history. 6 Grammys to his name, more than anybody else. He discovered Celine Dion, Michael Bublé, Josh Groban, and the rest of it. And at the time, he was, in his twilight years of his career, and he was still working like day and night. And so the question I asked him in our interview was, a lot of people call you a workaholic, like, you just always are working. What do you say people who call you a workaholic. He said, let me put it this way. He said, on a Saturday morning, you know that special time on a Saturday morning, he says, there's no place I'd rather be in the world. Not on any exotic beach, not sailing some ocean, not on a tennis court or a golf course. There's nowhere I'd rather be in the world than in my studio, making my great art. He said, that's not working, that's living. That's living to the zenith of my human capacity. That's igniting the zeal and energy that I have for the love that I've got for my great art. And you know, that's the test for you. Where would you rather be on a Saturday morning? Family aside, I'm talking about as a hobby. The things that really fill you up, that you're most satisfied doing, that you get the most joy and fulfillment from. If the answer isn't working, or building your great business, or expanding your empire here at ACN, then maybe you haven't found the switch that's going to make the Saturday test proof positive for you. Another example of this is Paul DeJoria here. I asked him, I said, you know, what do you do with your time off? You know, how do you structure your week, your month, and so forth, your vacations? And here's what his answer was. He said, click. When I go on vacation, I get bored. And I want to get back to the fun of business. Here's a distinction that I want to give you. Vacation is not the objective. You don't work so that you can go on vacation, and vacation is the payoff. It's exactly the opposite. You go on vacation so that you can rest and revitalize so that you can go back to work. You see, that's a very alternate thought than the way that most people live their lives. You see, I love working far more than I like vacationing. But I go on vacation only so that I can refuel, revitalize, so that when I get back to work, I can bring my full capacity. If that's not your objective, if your goal is to retire, if your goal is the weekend, if your goal is the vacation, then I'm telling you, you have not found that thing that ignites the greatest capacity of human potential inside of you. You haven't found your switch. And so I ask you to reevaluate what, how, who, or why, until the only thing you would love to do more than anything is to continue to go and build your great art. And this is where your art exists. Last time I was with Trump, we talked about vacations, and here's what he said about vacation, because we were in Barcelona, or before Barcelona, and we're like, oh, are you going to take some time off and see the sights in Barcelona? And this was his response, many of you might remember. He said it this way: don't take vacations, what's the point? If you're not enjoying your work, you're in the wrong job. Now, I'm not saying you don't take vacations. I'm saying you take vacations so that you could be better at work. I'm saying that you rest and recover, that you take the weekend and get off the grid, so that when you get back on the grid, you are at full tilt capacity. When you are orienting your life in that way, I'm telling you, never work again. All you do is express yourself through your great work and great art. And so I ask you to find for yourself, what is your switch? What turns you on? Is it what? Is it how? Is it who? Or is it why? And when you find it, and I know that some of you are excited, I'm telling you, excitement is not what you need. Because excitement will wane. 2 weeks from now, that excitement will drop. You need true gut, in your corpuscle, passion and love. And when you have that passion, and you have that love deep, deep in your soul, I'm telling you, nothing, no one, no ridicule, no sarcasm, no innuendo, no naysayer can ever stop you. And then you truly have full passion. I invite you to look further into the entrepreneur roller coaster, to find the 4 essential skills. The skills are sales. Most everything you know about sales is wrong. Your approach to sales, I will promise you, is exactly the opposite. You also will learn important of recruiting, how to get anybody you want and get them to do anything you want. Leadership, all of you in this room, if you're going to build a thriving ACN business, you're going to end up on the stage as a Circle of Champion. You've got to develop your core leadership skills. And then lastly, in an era of epic distraction, how do you stay productive? And so, for those of you that are here, if I could just impart one thing, if you could just remember this one thing, the conversation that we had here today, this is the greatest time, this right now. Please, I beg of you to take account, to pay attention, to take advantage. You were called to be here. You were asked to be in this room, and you answered the call. You answered the clarion call for you to take the hero's journey. You were put here at this moment in the history of humanity. You were put here in this country, or whatever country that you're from, that has access to this great company and this great opportunity. Please don't take it for granted. The one thing that pains me more than anything is that you have gotten here, and that many of you won't be here a year from now. Don't make that you. Inside of you is the capacity to do this. If you're in this room, I promise you, you can do this. No matter how you feel about your skills, your ability, your potential, if you're in this room, out of 7 billion people on the planet who could have been here, I'm telling you that inside of you is the capacity to do this. To change your life, to change your future, and end up on this stage. And along the way, enjoy the ride.